We have come to realize that as the poorest of the poor, we are alone and no one cares about us.
Abahlali baseMjondolo is a movement of more than 115,000 people living in informal settlements in South Africa. For almost 2 decades, they have been fighting for land, housing, and dignity. But instead of assistance, they have received threats, attacks, unlawful evictions, trumped-up legal charges, harassment, attempted murders, and killings, just for standing up for their rights and those of their communities. But where does this resistance come from? It comes from those who are challenged by their activism.
The movement has faced a lot of attacks. Last year alone, we had 3 assassinations. Siyabonga Manqele was killed. Nokuthula Mabaso was shot and killed. Lindo Buhle Mnguni was shot and killed. Ayanda Ngila was followed and killed while fixing an irrigation pipe. Every day I have dreams as if somebody has kicked a door and started opening bullets, and I'll wake up in bed jumping.
This is the story of a community fighting for basic human rights and the state's failure to respond and ensure that these human rights defenders are protected.
Amnesty International South Africa has always been keeping track on what happens when it comes to human rights defenders. And in 2022, we were approached by the leadership of Abahlali, who came to see us to ask us if Amnesty International would be willing to take up their case because they felt that having a brand like Amnesty behind them would provide them with more safety and security. So that was when Amnesty International decided that we were going to take up the case of Abahlali. And the way in which we were going to do it would be to campaign as well as to conduct research looking at what were the challenges, why was Abahlali facing these challenges, and what was behind the killing of 25 people. So that is really how Amnesty International got involved.
Abahlali is a shack dwellers movement. The movement was formed in 2005 to fight for, promote, and advance the interest of the poor and marginalized. When you are poor in South Africa and living in shack, a lot of people assume that poor people cannot think for themselves. They think that because you are poor, people must think on your behalf and do things on your behalf. The dignity of people who are living in shacks, and particularly those who are poor, is not recognized by this government that we are having. And therefore, Abahlali were formed as a home for those people, so that we unite as the poorest of the poor living in shacks and speak about our own issues and how we can challenge government by exposing corruption, but also by recognizing that we are human beings, because we believe that a human being is a human being wherever and whenever they find themselves. Your socio-economic status should not determine whether you are human or not, and that's what Abahlalis have stood for. That's why we are saying that land, housing, decent housing, in fact, and the dignity is one of the things that we are fighting for. We want to see a just and equal society where respect and dignity becomes the order of the day.
Abahlali baseMjondolo, which loosely translates to shack dwellers in isiZulu, was formed in eThekwini, formerly known as Durban, in the KwaZulu-Natal province. This was following a road blockade in 2005, where residents of the Kennedy Road informal settlement protested the sale of municipal land promised to the settlement for housing. Since then, individually and in association with the Abahlali movement, members have been advocating for and promoting human rights at local level in the communities and settlements in which they live. But one of its branches, which receives the most threats, is the eKhenana informal settlement, just 7 kilometers from the Durban CBD and 10 kilometers from the beaches the city is known for. In 2022 alone, 3 Abahlali leaders from eKhenana were killed within the space of 6 months. They were Nokuthula Mabaso, Ayanda Ngila, and Linda Kushle Mguni. Ayanda, the deputy chairperson of Abahlali in eKhenana, was shot and killed on the 8th of March 2022 while fixing an irrigation pipe. Nokuthula, a mother of 4 and a prominent Abahlali Women's League leader, was shot in front of her children on the 5th of May 2022. And Linda Kushle Mguni was shot in his home while sleeping next to his partner on the 20th of August the same year. These deaths are only the most recent in the settlement. The movement has reported 8 killings in eKhenana since 2018, 5 of which Abahlali members linked to the individual's activism. eKhenana is named after the biblical reference to Canaan, the land of flowing milk and honey. It was founded following an eviction from Cato Crest after backyard tenants were excluded from the planned upgrade of the Cato Manor settlement. It officially became an Abahlali branch in 2019. The settlement is organized as a cooperative working commune where residents have established a communal vegetable garden, chicken farm, kitchen, tuck shop, a library, a creche, and even a political school. It is a cooperative which is challenging the status quo. However, the repression Abahlali members face has resulted in only approximately 50 individuals remaining in eKhenana, an award-winning, best practice vibrant commune that started out with 109 households and around 201 residents. Research shows that most of the residents of eKhenana are economic migrants from rural areas in South Africa who have moved to eThekwini to seek a better life for themselves and their families. The majority of residents are unemployed, underemployed or informally employed, and cannot afford the high rental costs of living in the city and its suburbs. Langa Mbunguzane, a young man from the Eastern Cape, who has been in eThekwini since 2013, is one of those residents. He has been living in eKhenana since 2019.
I was not affording the rent anymore because I wasn't fully employed. I was just part-time, doing part-time jobs in constructions, whereby you will find that you work for 2 days, then the rest of the month you are not working, yet the landlord needs money. You also need to buy food. You also need to support your family and your kids too. So coming here, not paying the rent, it was an advantage for me to come this side so that I can, if ever I get a piece job, I just work for my family and to sustain myself.
In his 5 years living in the commune, Langa has experienced the threats and death that many living in eKhenana have experienced. He himself has been assaulted and has the scar to show it. On the 8th of March 2022, Langa was arriving home to the commune when Ayanda was attacked and killed.
On a Sunday late, I think it was around 9-10, they again cut off our water supply. We reported to our leadership, of which is a chairperson and the deputy chair and also the secretary, who were in hiding during that time. So on Tuesday, they came in the commune to check and try to fix the pipe. On their process of fixing the pipe, that's where Ayanda Ngila was attacked. Then he fell behind the community pottery. That's where the guy, he also came closer to him and make sure that the guy is dead.
Abahlali General Secretary Tsepelo Mohape was one of the first people to arrive on the scene after Ayanda was killed.
It was very painful for me to see his lifeless body on the ground on that day. Number of bullets, I could not count them. And the police, because they wanted to take photos and so forth, they asked me to turn him. Knowing him, the spirit that he was, seeing him in the manner that he was, it was terrible for me.
In July 2023, Khaya Ngubane was found guilty of his murder. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Shortly after Ayanda's murder, Nokuthula was killed. She was a witness to his death and was preparing an affidavit. While she was not due to testify yet, Nokuthula was killed the day before Khaya Ngubane's bail hearing was due to take place.
She had children who had come to visit her, and she was in the community hall, and she decided to go and attend to a pot of rice that she was cooking in her house. Because she was in the shack settlement, there were 2 men that were actually outside her home waiting for her. They shot her 3 times at the back, and they turned her over and they shot her in the front. Yeah, and the same applies. We responded seeing her lifeless body, somebody who was active, somebody who was working hard in the soup kitchen, somebody who was working with a woman in the chicken farm, the poultry chicken that is there, somebody who was encouraging women to work in the garden, somebody who was always at her work, you could see that this person had the people's interest at heart.
Mam Nokuthula Mabaso, which was one of the witnesses and one of the pillars of this community, because she was the chairperson of the Women's League of the community and also the mother to us, because during that period of our leadership being arrested, she was the one who was always counseling us and always makes us strong. So we believe that she was a threat to them because they wanted no one to arise as a leader.
Abahlali members complained that when Nokuthula was assassinated, police did not arrive when they were called, and that they had to be fetched from the police station and taken to the crime scene.
When you are in eKhenana, the police station is 5 kilometers away. But whenever there was a killing in eKhenana, we ourselves had to go to the police station and face the police to come and to the crime scene. So you see police that are not visible in society, but also police don't care about people in the informal settlements. They would not patrol the informal settlement. But if it's elite, they give time frames and they make sure that justice is done.
The police arrested 2 people 2 months later, but charges were dropped in 2023, apparently following the disappearance of the post-mortem report.
Unfortunately, those people who assassinated Mam Nokuthula Mabaso were arrested. Later on, they were released because they say the court magistrate says the post-mortem is missing or post-mortem something, but it was having a post-mortem. Their reason for being released. Now they are free.
3 months later, Linda was murdered. He was the chairperson of the eKhenana Commune and Youth League and another witness to Ayanda's murder. He was also targeted on the day Ayanda was killed, but managed to escape. Linda had been in hiding since Ayanda's murder, but on the night he was killed, he had decided to sleep at home.
We have a video footage of 2 people who went into the commune, who went house to house looking for Linda. Eventually they found his house and kicked the door and the window, and they started shooting and opening bullets, which Lindo Mnguni succumbed to his death on the spot, and her partner was dying on the ground.
During this, the period in between their assassination, there is always the threats. You will find the threats verbally or on social media.
We then received threats that the top leadership was now going to be targeted. The leadership of Abahlali, particularly the president, the deputy president, and the general secretary. My attacks has been because I was pushing for justice for all these matters that have been taking place at Abahlali. But at the same time, I was the one who was telling the world what is happening, because I'm responsible for statements that have been released for Abahlali.
There have only been 2 convictions out of the more than 20 cases that Abahlali have counted. That for the killing of Ayanda and another member, Tuli Ndlovu, who was killed in 2014. There is very little to no confidence in the police amongst Abahlali activists.
We were reporting everything that was happening in the commune, even before the killings happened. We were always reporting every intimidation, every threat that is happening. I remember one of the days we went to the police station, it was late in the afternoon, around 8-9, to report that pipe which was cut off by these people, and also going to report the unlicensed firearms that they were carrying. But unfortunately, the police never attended us. They gave us stories saying, when we saw these people, we must call them to come. We told them that the people are in the community right now.
Well, the authorities have not failed. They just don't care. These are shack dwellers. Our lives don't matter in the eyes of the government. We are not politicians. If it was politicians or ministers or any other people or what councillors, they make sure that they investigate. We know that not so long ago, every life is important, and no one deserves to die, regardless of who they are.
Frustrated, Abahlali reached out to Amnesty International South Africa in 2022 in an effort to highlight the plight of its activists and the fact that nothing was being done to protect them or bring forth any justice.
We have a global campaign which we call Right for Rights, which is the largest human rights campaign in the world. This happens on an annual basis, and every year countries put forward the names of people who they like to be included in the campaign, and the movement globally takes action around these cases. In 2023, Amnesty International South Africa put forward the case of Abahlali through its Secretary General, Thapelo Moapi. This was accepted, and Thapelo became one of the 10 people that Amnesty globally was campaigning for. And in Thapelo's case, we were campaigning for his right to safety and security, the right to life, and the right to protection, as well as a right to justice. Over 500,000 actions were taken in response to the campaign. The global movement wrote letters to the presidency and the Minister of Police in which we demanded that Abahlali activists be given protection as well as justice for those that had been killed while fighting for their rights.
So through this campaign, I want the world to know that even though we went the stage of apartheid and we went through democracy, but some of us only see that in theory, not in practice. We are living in shacks of indignity. We are not living the life that we thought our parents, after fighting apartheid, we would live. But we are living the worst life. We are living in fear. We are running away. Never, ever, I, in my life, thought that I would be running away after my parents have fought against apartheid.
In 2024, Amnesty International South Africa finalized its research into the threats, attacks, and killings of Abahlali members.
With this report, what we are hoping to see is that there will be more pressure being put onto the state. And the importance of what we're doing is that we are not just making random statements. We are providing evidence to back up those statements. So it's very difficult then for the Minister of Police or the President to say to us, well, how do we know what you're saying is true? Because, we are very careful as Amnesty International about our evidence gathering. We have a very stringent quality assurance process. So, we are hoping with this that not only will action be taken in South Africa, but we plan to launch this report globally as well, and to make sure that pressure continues to be applied. We need to make sure that there's legislation to protect everyone, and we need to ensure that your right to protest, your right to be able to stand up for your rights is protected as enshrined in the Constitution. The message of hope for me has always been the resilience of people. The resilience of people to stand up and to fight for what is wrong. Despite the fact that Abahlali has lost 25 of their people, they continue to fight. So the power really has to be in us stepping up, doing the right thing, whether or not it is us who are at the coalface of this rights violation, but really saying no one in South Africa, never again should South Africans face rights violations of this kind. Our belief is very much in the power of people to fight for their rights and to fight for the rights of others.
My hopes are that one day we will be economically free, because that is our main objective. If ever we can grow those businesses and develop our community on our own without depending to someone to come and help us, where we all live in an equal space, sharing everything equally, regardless of your gender or your race. We won't surrender. It's either socialism or death.
I'm hoping that we would have, our future will bring leaders that are not going to be selfish, be selfless. We want leaders that are going to be selfless, people who are going to serve the interest of the people. And I think those people are ordinary people that have not been recognized in this country, people who work for the betterment of the people on a daily basis, whether they come from civil society, social movements, or anywhere else. But I think those people are there. And I think it's time that we have a government that is stable, government that cares about its people, government that provides land, that provides decent housing, that provides shelter and provide the basic services such as water and electricity. It's been 30 years almost since we've been to democracy, and no one should live without water. No one should live without a shelter. No one should be homeless. We want young people, particular leaders in the civil society and elsewhere, to take their place and provide these basic necessities for our people so that our people can be liberated.